The Human Zoo. Chapter 1. The Amazonian in the Alienarium. The air hung heavy with the scent of damp earth and exotic blooms, a symphony of unfamiliar fragrances that assaulted Maya's senses. Sunlight pierced through a canopy of towering trees, their leaves shimmering with an iridescent sheen that was both mesmerizing and unsettling. The jungle floor was a tapestry of vibrant colors and textures, from the velvety moss carpeting the ground to the gnarled roots that snaked across her path. Maya awoke with a jolt, her heart thrumming like a hummingbird's wings. Gone was the comforting embrace of her hammock, woven from the soft fibers of the kapok tree. Instead, she found herself sprawled on a bed of leaves, surrounded by alien flora in an eerie silence broken only by the distant cries of unfamiliar birds. Rising to her feet, she instinctively reached for the hunting knife she always carried, her fingers tracing the familiar grooves in the bone handle. But the weapon offered little comfort in this strange new world. She scanned her surroundings, her eyes darting from the towering trees to the dense undergrowth, searching for any sign of danger. A rustle in the foliage caught her attention. She froze, every muscle tense, her breath held in check. A figure emerged from the shadows, its form obscured by the dappled sunlight. As it drew closer, Maya's eyes widened in disbelief. The figure was humanoid, but not quite human. Its skin was a shimmering blue, its eyes large and almond-shaped, its limbs elongated and graceful. It wore a form-fitting silver jumpsuit that accentuated its slender frame. "Greetings," the figure said, its voice a melodious chime that echoed through the jungle. "I am Kale Infora, zoologist for Exogen Corporation. Welcome to your new home." Maya's hand tightened around her knife. "Home? This is not my home. Where am I? Who are you?" Kale tilted his head, his large eyes studying her with a mixture of curiosity and amusement. "You are in the Xyloprime Human Zoo, a sanctuary where humans from various eras can live in peace and harmony." "Zoo?" Maya scoffed, her voice dripping with disdain. "I am no animal to be caged. I am Maya Killam, daughter of the rainforest." Kale's smile widened, revealing rows of pearly white teeth. "I understand your confusion, Maya Killam, but rest assured, you are safe here. We provide for all your needs and ensure your comfort." "Comfort?" Maya's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Is this what you call comfort? To be ripped from my home, my family, my people? To be imprisoned in this artificial jungle?" Kale's smile faltered, a flicker of doubt clouding his eyes. I understand your concerns, but please, allow me to show you around. Perhaps then you will see that this is not a prison, but a sanctuary." Reluctantly, Maya agreed. She followed Kale deeper into the habitat, her senses overwhelmed by the sights and sounds. As they walked, she noticed other humans scattered throughout the enclosure. Some wore strange garments made of shimmering fabrics, while others were clad in animal skins and furs. They all stared at Maya with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Kale explained that the zoo housed humans from various historical periods, brought to Xyloprime through advanced time travel technology. He spoke of Exogen's mission to preserve human culture and educate the galactic community about Earth's rich history. But Maya saw through the polished words and benevolent facade. She saw the invisible barriers that confined them, the surveillance drones that buzzed overhead like insects, and the subtle manipulation designed to quell their spirits. Her suspicions were confirmed when she witnessed a brutal act of violence. A young man, driven mad by his captivity, attempted to scale the invisible wall that enclosed the habitat. He was quickly apprehended by a group of guards, their silver suits gleaming in the sunlight. They beat him mercilessly, their blows echoing through the jungle. Maya's blood ran cold. This was no sanctuary. It was a prison, a gilded cage where humans were kept as playthings for the amusement of alien tourists. A burning rage ignited within her, a fierce determination to resist, to fight back, to reclaim her freedom and the freedom of her people. Chapter 2. Whispers in the Wilderness. The moon hung high in the alien sky, casting an ethereal glow over the rainforest habitat. A chorus of crickets and nocturnal creatures provided a symphony of background noise as Maya crept through the undergrowth, her bare feet silent on the damp earth. She moved with the grace of a jaguar, her senses honed by years of living in harmony with the Amazon. A faint light flickered in the distance, beckoning her forward. She followed the trail, her heart pounding in her chest. As she neared the source, she could make out the silhouettes of figures huddled together in a small clearing. "Who goes there?" a voice whispered, sharp and alert. "It is I, Maya," she replied, stepping into the circle of light. Several faces turned towards her, their expressions a mixture of hope and apprehension. Among them was Håkan Yilmaz, a broad-shouldered man with a shaved head and piercing eyes. He had been captured during a military operation in the 21st century, his combat experience a valuable asset to the fledgling resistance. "Welcome, sister," he said, his voice gruff but welcoming. "We were just discussing our next move." Maya nodded, taking a seat on a moss-covered log. "I have been speaking with others. Many are ready to fight for their freedom." A murmur of agreement rippled through the group. Elizabeth Ashton, a 19th century physician with kind eyes and a gentle touch, spoke up. "We must be careful. Exogen is watching us closely." Maya nodded, her gaze falling upon Kenji Tanaka, a young man hunched over a collection of wires and circuit boards. "What have you found, Kenji?" Kenji looked up, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "I've managed to modify one of the zoo's discarded communication devices. We can use it to send messages to other habitats." Hawkins slapped Kenji on the back. "Well done, my friend. This could be a game changer." Over the next few weeks, the resistance grew in strength and numbers. Maya and Håkan organized secret meetings in hidden corners of the zoo, sharing survival skills and tactical knowledge. Elizabeth used her medical expertise to treat injuries and prevent disease, while Kenji worked tirelessly to expand their communication network. Their efforts did not go unnoticed. Exogen's security forces grew increasingly suspicious, their patrols becoming more frequent and intrusive. But Kale, the sympathetic zoologist, remained their silent ally. He subtly sabotaged surveillance equipment, misdirected guards, and fed the resistance crucial information about Exogen's operations. One day, Kale approached Maya with a grave expression. "I have received a message from an anonymous source," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Exogen is conducting horrific experiments on the human captives. They are not interested in preserving our culture, but in exploiting us for their own gain." Maya's heart hardened. She had suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed fueled her resolve. "We must act quickly," she said. "We cannot allow them to continue this atrocity." The resistance redoubled their efforts, their determination burning brighter than ever. They knew the risks were great, but the price of freedom was worth any sacrifice. The whispers in the wilderness had grown into a chorus of defiance, ready to challenge the oppressive regime of Exogen and reclaim their rightful place in the galaxy. Chapter 3. Forging the Rebellion. The air crackled with nervous energy as Maya, Håkan, and Kenji huddled around a makeshift table fashioned from a fallen log. A dim glow emanated from the modified communication device, casting flickering shadows on their faces. "This is it," Maya whispered, her eyes fixed on the glowing screen. "We have a chance to strike back." Håkan, his brow furrowed in concentration, traced his finger over a crude map etched onto a piece of bark. "We'll need to divide our forces," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Some will create a diversion, while others infiltrate the security hub." Kenji nodded, his fingers dancing over the communication device. "I'll establish a link with the other habitats. We need to coordinate our efforts if we want this to succeed." Their plan was audacious, risky, but fueled by a burning desire for freedom. They had spent weeks meticulously gathering intelligence, thanks to Kale's covert assistance. He had provided them with detailed schematics of the zoo's infrastructure, highlighting weaknesses in the security systems and identifying potential blind spots. Under the guise of his job, Kale had also been able to subtly sabotage key components of the surveillance network. He had tampered with cameras, rerouted power lines, and even planted false data to mislead Exogen's security personnel. But Director Zilak was not easily fooled. He had noticed the subtle signs of unrest, the missing supplies, the unexplained malfunctions. He had ordered his security forces to double their patrols and increase surveillance. The tension in the zoo was palpable, like a tightly wound spring ready to snap. "We must be swift and decisive," Maya said, her voice firm. "There is no room for error." The group nodded in unison, their faces grim with determination. They knew the risks they were taking, but the thought of remaining captive was unbearable. They would rather die fighting than live as exhibits in Exogen's twisted menagerie. In the following days, the resistance intensified its preparations. They trained in secret, honing their combat skills and practicing their escape routes. They scavenged for additional supplies, fashioning weapons from scrap metal and repurposing discarded technology. Kale continued to provide invaluable support, his loyalty to Exogen replaced by a growing admiration for the humans' resilience and spirit. He risked everything to help them, knowing that discovery would mean certain punishment. The tension reached a fever pitch as the date of the Galactic Unity Festival approached. This annual event, celebrating the supposed harmony between species, was the perfect cover for the rebellion. The zoo would be teeming with visitors from across the galaxy, their attention focused on the festivities, not on the brewing uprising in their midst. Maya, Hawken, and their comrades knew that this was their chance. They had one shot at freedom, and they were determined to make it count. The whispers in the wilderness had evolved into a roar of defiance, ready to shatter the illusion of Exogen's benevolent facade and reclaim their rightful place in the galaxy. Chapter 4. The Festival of Fire and Freedom. The Xylo Prime Human Zoo was a kaleidoscope of vibrant colors and otherworldly sounds. Stalls brimming with exotic foods and peculiar trinkets lined the pathways, while holographic displays projected dazzling images of alien landscapes and creatures. The air buzzed with excitement as visitors from every corner of the galaxy thronged the grounds, their diverse forms and languages creating a cacophony that reverberated through the artificial biomes. Beneath the veneer of festivity, however, a storm was brewing. The human resistance was ready to strike, their carefully laid plans coming to fruition under the cover of the Galactic Unity Festival. "Remember," Maya whispered to her assembled comrades, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of a makeshift torch. "Tonight, we seize our freedom." Hawken, clad in a stolen Exogen uniform, adjusted the straps of his makeshift backpack, filled with stolen supplies and improvised weapons. "We create chaos, we draw attention, and we give our comrades the chance they need." Kenji, his fingers nervously tapping against the modified communication device, nodded. "I'll signal the others when the time is right." The plan was simple, yet audacious. Maya and Hawken would lead a team into the central plaza, creating a diversion that would draw the security forces away from the hidden hangar where Kale had secured a stolen spaceship. Meanwhile, Kenji and his team would infiltrate the security hub, disabling alarms and surveillance systems. As darkness fell, the festival reached its peak. Fireworks exploded overhead, casting colorful bursts of light across the sky. Music pulsed through the air, a mix of alien melodies and synthesized beats that sent vibrations through the ground. Maya and Hawken emerged from their hiding place, their hearts pounding with adrenaline. They carried torches fashioned from scavenged materials, their flames casting long, dancing shadows on the ground. "Now!" Maya shouted, her voice barely audible above the din. The group charged into the plaza, their torches held high. They ignited piles of discarded debris, creating a bonfire that quickly grew in intensity. The flames danced and crackled, casting an eerie glow over the scene. The crowd erupted in a mixture of panic and confusion. Some fled in terror while others gathered to watch the spectacle. Exogen security forces rushed towards the blaze, their weapons drawn. "This is our chance!" Hawken yelled, leading his team deeper into the chaos. They set off more fires, throwing smoke bombs and creating a smokescreen that obscured their movements. The air filled with shouts and alarms, the once orderly festival descending into pandemonium. Meanwhile, Kenji and his team made their way towards the security hub, their faces masked by the shadows. They moved quickly and silently, their footsteps muffled by the thick carpet of leaves. Kenji reached the control panel and began working his magic. His fingers danced over the keys, bypassing security protocols and disabling alarms. He grinned as the green lights on the panel turned to red, a symbol of their success. The time had come. Kenji tapped the communication device, sending a coded message to Maya and Hawken, the signal to strike. Chapter 5. A Desperate Flight to Freedom. The roar of the stolen shuttle's engines filled the air as it lurched into the sky, the hangar doors closing behind them with a metallic clang. Maya gripped the co-pilot's seat, her knuckles white as she scanned the flashing control panels, her heart pounding in unison with the ship's vibrations. "They're scrambling fighters!" Kenji yelled, his voice barely audible over the din. He jabbed a finger at a screen displaying a swarm of red dots converging on their position. Hawken, strapped into the pilot's seat, wrestled with the controls, his face grim with concentration. "Hold on tight," he shouted, banking the ship sharply to avoid a barrage of laser fire. The shuttle shuddered violently, alarms blaring. Maya glanced back at the other escapees crammed into the cargo hold, a motley crew of humans from different eras, their faces etched with a mixture of fear and determination. Suddenly, a sickening lurch threw everyone off balance. Maya cried out as she slammed against the bulkhead, a sharp pain lancing through her side. She looked down to see blood blossoming on her tunic. Hawken cursed, his eyes scanning the damage reports flashing across his console. "We've been hit!" he yelled. "Life support's failing in the cargo hold." Maya's gaze fell upon Elizabeth, her face pale and clammy. The 19th century physician had been injured during the escape, her legs shattered by a stray blast. Now, without proper medical attention, her condition was rapidly deteriorating. "We have to help her!" Maya cried, her voice thick with emotion. Hawkins shook his head, his jaw clenched. "We can't risk turning back. We're barely holding our own as it is." Kenji, his face pale with worry, chimed in. "He's right, Maya. We have to prioritize the survival of the many. It's the only way." Maya's heart ached with conflict. She couldn't abandon Elizabeth, a woman who had become a dear friend and a source of strength for the entire group. But she also knew that turning back would jeopardize the escape for everyone. "There must be something we can do," she insisted, her voice filled with desperation. Hawkins' eyes darted back and forth between the control panel and the viewport, his mind racing. "There might be one option," he said slowly, "a risky one." He explained that they could attempt a daring maneuver, using the ship's remaining power to slingshot around a nearby asteroid field. The gravitational pull would hopefully throw off their pursuers, giving them a chance to limp to safety. Maya nodded, her eyes filled with newfound resolve. "Do it," she said. "We're not leaving anyone behind." Hawken gripped the controls, his knuckles turning white. The ship lurched forward, hurtling towards the asteroid field. The rocks whizzed past, a deadly ballet of destruction. Maya held her breath, her body tensed as they weaved through the treacherous maze. With a final, heart-stopping jolt, they emerged on the other side. The exogen fighters were nowhere to be seen. Maya slumped back in her seat, relief washing over her. But the victory was bittersweet. Elizabeth's condition had worsened, her breathing shallow and ragged. Maya knelt beside her, taking her hand. "We're going to make it, Elizabeth," she whispered. "I promise." Elizabeth's eyes fluttered open, a faint smile gracing her lips. "I know you will, Maya," she whispered back. "You are a warrior." With a final breath, Elizabeth's hand went limp. Maya closed her friend's eyes, a single tear rolling down her cheek. The loss was devastating, but it only strengthened her resolve. They would honor Elizabeth's sacrifice by fighting for a better future. A future where no one would be caged or exploited. A future where humanity could thrive among the stars. Chapter 6, A Galaxy Awakened. The news rippled through the galactic consciousness like a shockwave. The images of human captives, once docile exhibits, now fierce warriors battling their way to freedom, were broadcast on every screen, in every language, across every star system. Maya watched the footage on a salvaged datapad, her heart swelling with pride. The grainy images showed her and her comrades storming through the zoo, faces determined, weapons blazing. She saw Hawken leading a charge, his battle cry echoing through the artificial jungle. She saw Kenji disabling security systems with nimble fingers, a mischievous grin on his face. She saw Elizabeth, her gentle touch now wielding a makeshift weapon, her eyes ablaze with newfound courage. The escape had sparked a firestorm of outrage. Protests erupted on countless planets, their inhabitants demanding an end to Exogen's exploitation. The corporation's stock plummeted, their reputation tarnished beyond repair. "They thought they could control us," Maya said, her voice filled with righteous anger. "They thought they could erase our history, our culture, our very identity. But they were wrong." Kale, sitting beside her, nodded in agreement. They underestimated the strength of the human spirit, he said. They failed to see the power of unity and the unyielding desire for freedom. The escaped humans had found refuge on a neutral planet called Haven, a world known for its tolerance and diversity. Here they were welcomed with open arms, their stories celebrated as a triumph of the underdog. Under Maya's leadership, they established a thriving community, drawing upon their diverse skills and knowledge. Hakan trained a new generation of warriors, instilling in them the values of courage and discipline. Elizabeth established a medical clinic, using her knowledge to heal both physical and emotional wounds. Kenji worked tirelessly to develop new technologies that would benefit all sentient beings. Dr. Ilara Zilt, no longer bound by the constraints of exogen, dedicated her research to understanding the unique resilience of the human spirit. She studied the cultural and biological factors that had enabled humans to survive and thrive throughout history, from the harsh realities of prehistoric Earth to the artificial environments of the human zoo. Kale, who had renounced his ties to exogen, became a tireless advocate for human rights and interspecies cooperation. He traveled across the galaxy, sharing the story of the rebellion and inspiring others to fight for justice. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the Haven landscape, Maya stood on a hill overlooking the bustling settlement. She saw children playing in the fields, their laughter echoing through the air. She saw adults working together, building homes, tending crops, sharing stories and songs from their diverse cultures. A deep sense of peace washed over her. They had come so far, endured so much, but they had persevered, and in doing so had ignited a spark of hope that spread across the galaxy. She knew that their journey was far from over. There were still countless beings suffering under the yoke of oppression, countless worlds yearning for liberation. But Maya was confident that the spirit of the human zoo rebellion would continue to burn bright, inspiring others to rise up and claim their rightful place in the cosmos. The human spirit, she realized, was not bound by biology or circumstance. It was a force of nature, a spark of divine energy that could never be extinguished. And as long as that spark remained, there was always hope for a brighter future, a galaxy awakened to the truth of its shared humanity.